So till last class, we had a long discussion on different types of common source amplifiers. We looked at all the other parameters, which include gain, which talked about bandwidth, noise, signal swing limits, and we also looked at some of the trade-offs there. And so we also looked at what are the input and output impedances, how to calculate them, all these things. So in today's lecture, I hope to start and complete the analysis of common gate amplifier. Now, in the course of doing the whole thing, we have looked at what are all the different, so we have learned the techniques of analyzing circuits. We have also learned the techniques of, being able to model different elements in different ways, right? And for common source, how you would like to, what are the different types of loads? Now, the same would apply for even a common gate amplifier. Now, this common gate amplifier, as most of you would have guessed, is very similar.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, while studying the common source amplifier, at the first you told that we have to assume that IRF current. So, can you say that how we can generate this IRF reference current?
You're talking about current mirrors.
Yeah, current mirror.
Yeah.
That one only.
Yeah.
So, how we can generate that IRF, because it is basically dependent on that IRF only.
Correct. So we have what is called as band gap reference circuits. Okay. And I will be covering those circuits towards the end of the course. Okay. Because by the time we have to cover op amps and all that, and then we will look at band gap references. Okay.
Okay.
So basically that will be a reference current which will be constant across temperature, and also there are different types of references. We'll also look at those things. So how to generate all of them, we will consider those things towards the end of this course. Okay. All right. So if the BJT equivalent is basically a common base amplifier, right? Now, based on that input, so how do you design a common gate? So basically you have the MOSFET. Your gate is at, so when you say common gate, the gate is basically common to both the input and the output. Okay. And the input is basically fed at the source and the output is taken at the drain. Right? And the gate for some reason I got, let me share my screen again. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. All right. So here what happens is that
Hello.
हेलो सर। हेलो।
आवाज आ रही है भाई, तेरी आवाज आ रही है।
ओके।
सर का नेटवर्क कनेक्शन है, कोई कॉल कर सकता है उनको?
Yeah, today it looks like I'm having a lot of disconnections. Let me try to start again. Are you guys able to see my screen and hear me?
यस सर।
Right. Thank you. Now, what I was saying is that for a common gate amplifier, the input is given to the source and the output is taken at the drain. And this is how we basically have. Okay. Now, what happens is that let's say this is connected to some bias voltage. This is VDD. So the output is taken here. Let's say this is some RD. Now the input can be fed in like this. So if you remember your old common base amplifiers and so on, if you are using discrete circuits, what you would do is put a current source and then AC couple your input. Okay, this is one way of doing, but the problem is this capacitor has to be of a very large value. So if you are looking at discrete circuits, that is the ones that you would assemble on a PCB or on a breadboard, you would put a DC block capacitor and then bias it with a current source. Okay, so this current source, the purpose of this current source is such that the DC current that is, for any transistor to work, the DC current has to flow, and this DC current will flow through the transistor, has to flow through the transistor, and the transistor has to be in the saturation region. Now this current will flow through this current source to ground, whereas the small signal or the input signal is AC coupled so that there is no DC going into your input. Now this luxury is not always there for IC based implementations. Only if you are like, let's say this is the boundary of the chip, then it is fine. You can put one current source and then directly connect it, right? Or the other way to do it is basically to have your input directly connected to your circuit. So the other way would be that you have the input directly connected. This is some VB, right? And then the bias current has to flow through the input. So typically when you have an external input, that is the input is not a previous stage or something like that, you typically have a current source and you DC couple the input. So this is the best way to do. All right. Now first let us try to do a basic transfer characteristic analysis. Right? Now what is transfer characteristics? What happens when your input is swept from, let's say, your Vn goes from, let's say, 0 to VDD? How will your output behave? So this is a large signal perspective to understand how the circuit is basically going to work. So let's look at this circuit. Let's say this is RD, this is your common gate. Okay, for this analysis, let's just say you have something like this, Vn Rs, this is your Vb, correct? Now, if this is the case, first of all, if your Vin is very low, what happens? If your Vn is quite low, so maybe for this transfer characteristics, we'll not have all this Rs and so on. So what we are saying is, what happens if this input node of your common gate amplifier, if it is swept from 0 to VDD? Now, if it is very close to 0, what happens is that you have a very large VGS, right? So your VGS can be written as VB minus Vn. So when Vn is very low, your Vb is quite large, which means there's a large amount of current flowing, right? For small Vn, or small, or instead of saying small, let me say low Vn, you have large VGS, which results in large ID. So which means that if you look at the output, Vout can be written as what? Vout can be written as VDD minus the drain current multiplied by RD, ID times RD. So because ID is large, now your Vout will be quite low. So which means that for very large, for small values of Vin, or rather if your DC voltage of your Vin is less, your transistor is very likely to be in the triode region, because your Vout is quite low, right? Your Vout is low and your VGS is large, so your VDS is going to be definitely less than VGS minus VTH, which means this is going to be in the triode region. Okay. Now, as you keep increasing Vin, what happens? The VGS starts decreasing, and because you are reducing the VGS, ID starts decreasing and Vout starts increasing. So what you would see is something like this. Okay. Now, this kind of keeps going till what? Till the point that this transistor literally turns off. When will it turn off? What is the value of input for which the transistor will turn off?
VB. Vn equals VB.
Will it go all the way till VB, or
VB minus VTH?
Correct. Right? So for Vn equal to VB minus VTH, beyond that point, for let's say VB less than Vn less than this, your transistor is off. Let's say this is M1. Transistor becomes off. Now, when your transistor becomes off, your output becomes equal to VDD. Correct? Yeah. Someone had a question.
Sir, Vn greater than VB minus VTH.
Oh yeah, sorry. Thanks. Yeah, Vin greater than VB minus VTH, your transistor turns off and your output goes and sits at VDD. So basically what we are understanding here is that what is the bias point at which your input has to be. Now, in this region, it is in the triode region, okay, which is not what you want. You basically want it to be in the saturation region. So there comes a point where your so where will it be such that if you assume square law, what is the edge of saturation? So basically you want your VDS to be equal to VGS minus VTH. Now what is your VDS? VDS is Vout minus Vin, and this is VB minus Vn minus VTH. So for Vout equal to VB minus VTH. So that is the point where, let's say Vout equal to, let's say VB minus VTH. That is the point that it enters saturation. Okay. Below that, it is going to be in triode region. Again, as I mentioned, so all this is assuming this, classical equations, which will kind of change when you actually simulate, because you will now talk about VD sat rather than VGS minus VTH, right? And then of course here it goes into cutoff. So this is how your transfer characteristics works. So basically it means that if you want to plot or if you want to operate this transistor, you kind of want to operate somewhere in this region. Correct. This is the good bias point, which is where you can operate your transistor, or rather this is your input bias point, so that your transistor is not going to be in, your transistor will work well and your amplifier will work well. If you go too high of a VN DC, you're in problem. If you put it at a too low a value, again you're in a problem. Okay. All right. Now let us look at what is the small signal equivalent circuit. Now small signal equivalent, yeah.
Sir, in this triad region, the curve is somewhat like exponential. Is it like that?
Correct.
Sir, you said that like in the deep triad region or the linear region, it should be the ID is directly like it is linearly varying. It is not quadratic variation is not there in that region. So won't it be linear at the initial points?
So initially it will be like this and then it will go off like this. I mean, I've drawn a little approximate version. Okay. Maybe you can simulate and see how it is. That is the thing.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Fine.
Yeah. Thing is, like, it depends on what is the, so even in the deep triode, so it is linear here and then it starts having that curve region, right? So here, so all this is still within the triode region. Okay, the IDVDS curve. So it's only here that it is linear.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so if you look at the small signal equivalent circuit, first let's draw the small signal equivalent circuit of a transistor. Now you have GM-VGS and then you will have, let's say, R0. Now, not only that, because your source is not grounded here, you will also have the bulk to source voltage. Okay, so which means that we have to include the GMB VBS term, because VBS is not equal to 0. The bulk is usually grounded. Here the source is not grounded because that is where you are feeding your input, right? So this is what you would basically get. Right? This is the model of our transistor. Now, what happens in this particular circuit? You are having the transistor. The gate is connected to VB, which is a DC voltage and hence an AC ground. So let us ground the gate. And then we have RD here to VDD. So which means you have RD connected to AC ground, right? So this is V out. And what else do we have? So we have RS and VM, right? Now, even if you have a DC coupled, an AC coupled system where you have a current source and you have a capacitor. Now, again, this will hold good because, if you take this particular circuit, this is a DC current source. So it does not conduct any AC current. So it is an open circuit for AC signals. So it goes out of the picture. The capacitor is expected to be a short at the frequency of interest, and therefore that becomes a short, and you end up with only V in RS and the transistor. Okay. So here you basically have RS and Vn. All right. Now, if you look at this particular thing, so first let us try to look at, let's try to calculate the gain, right? Now, how can we calculate the gain? We always say that the gain is given by the transconductance multiplied by the output resistance, right? All right. Now, first of all, what is the transconductance here? Can you tell me?
So GM plus GMB.
Okay, why do you say it is GM plus GMB? Now we are giving the input at the source, no?
Okay, sir.
In the common source case, we gave the input at the gate, right? And we said there is a certain gate to source voltage and there is a current set up because of the gate to source voltage. Here your gate is grounded and your input is given at the source. Your answer is right, but you tell me why.
Sir, ultimately, with this, we are only changing just the VGS only.
Exactly, right? So ultimately what we are doing is we are only changing VGS. In the common source amplifier, the source was at a constant potential and we were changing the gate voltage. Here it's just the ulta. Gate is at a constant potential and we are changing the source. So your VGS is basically in this direction, which ends up being, the negative of this one. Now also another, so the transconductance here is going to be GM plus GMP. Alright. Okay, fine. Now let us also look at what is going to be the polarity of the gain. Okay. Do you have a negative polarity? Do you have a negative gain or a positive gain here?
Positive.
Why is it
Positive.
positive?
Positive gain, sir.
Why positive?
So because in the last case we changed VGS, now we are actually doing ulta, so it does make sense that we will get a negative.
Okay, that's a good observation. That's a good way to intuitively understand. That is fine. Another way to look at it is, let's say you're having a signal increase here. Let's say it's a sinusoidal signal. Let's say you're having a signal increase. Okay. Let's just say your V in is some VDC plus some delta V. Okay. You have some incremental signal. Now, which means that what happens to the VGS here, small VGS? Small VGS is basically now minus delta V. Correct? Because as your input increases, your VGS now decreases. Because of that, what happens to your small ID? That's your small signal ID. It is going to be, let's say, GM plus GMB times minus GM plus DMB times delta V. Because now the current is going to reduce. Now, because the current is reducing, the voltage across RD is also going to reduce, which means V out is going to what? V out is going to increase. Okay. So when your input increases, ultimately your V out is increasing. So which means that it has a positive gain. Unlike a common source amplifier where you have a negative gain, here you have a positive gain. All right. Okay. Now let us try to find out what is the output impedance. Now for finding out the output impedance, what do we do?
Sir?
Now first of all, to find the output impedance, you set V into 0 in the small signal equivalent circuit, right? So if you set V into 0, how can you rewrite this thing? You have your GM VGS and you have, let's say, your GMB VBS and you have your R0, you have RD to ground, this is your V out, gate is grounded, this is your drain, you have RS connected to ground. Okay. Now, what is the output impedance seen from here? Can you tell me? Now, the actual way by which you would calculate is to basically connect a test voltage source there and then, go through that entire derivation and you will get the answer. Okay. But can you kind of, by inspection and the results that we have got in some of the earlier classes, can you try to tell what will be the output impedance? So let me give you a clue. For the output impedance calculation, it is almost like something like this. Okay. So you have RD parallel to this impedance. So you can always say RD parallel to the impedance seen from here. Now what is the impedance seen from here? It is like having a transistor and then which has some source degeneration. Correct? We have already seen this type of a circuit 2 times. First time we saw it in cascode current mirror, right? Where you have R0, this RS was, instead of RS, we had R01 the transistor at the bottom, and you have the transistor at the top. So we had a cascode current mirror. We looked at the output impedance. Secondly, we also looked at it in the context of common source with source degeneration, where you have, something like this. Now, do you remember what is the expression for this output impedance?
R naught plus RS plus GM R naught RS.
Exactly. So it is R naught. It is the sum of these two resistances plus
RD parallel with R naught plus RS plus GM GS.
Yeah. So you have RD in parallel with R naught plus RS plus GMB plus GM plus GMB times R naught times RS. Okay. This is your output impedance. Now, technically what happens is this second term becomes really large, okay, in comparison to RD. So you can kind of approximate this to be almost RD. Is it clear? Okay, so now if you want to write the gain expression, what happens to the gain? The gain can be written as GM plus GMB times R out. You can write that full big expression, which becomes GM plus GMB times RD parallel to R naught plus RS plus GM plus GMB times RS times R naught. This is the full expression. This can be easily approximated to GM plus GMB times RD. Okay, and the gain is positive. All right. So this is your gain expression. Now, if you look at the gain, this gain is also quite high. Now, again, you can do all the other stuff that we did with our common source, that instead of the resistor, you can put a MOSFET. Okay. Those of you who took the RFIC course in the previous semester, we know that instead of RD, we put some, we had a tuned load, we had an inductor and a capacitor, right? So all those things we did, and it's possible, and you can do. In fact, if this gain expression, instead of writing like this, you can also go and, derive it from first principles. That is, from this small signal equivalent circuit, you can write all the related expressions, right? And you can derive the gain from here also. If you derive the gain from here, you will end up getting pretty much the same expression. Okay. You will basically get the expanded version of this particular equation, right? And but it is a little easier for us to quickly write down the gain expression like this. All right. Any doubts? Any questions? All right. Now, the other main thing that we need to look at is basically input resistance or the input impedance, right? Now, what is the input impedance? So first of all, how do we do that? So it is again the same small signal equivalent circuit, GM VGS, GMB VBS, and then you have R naught, and then you have RD here, right? All these things put together. Gate is grounded. This is your drain. This is your source. And here we want to find out what is the input impedance, right? So we connect a test voltage source. We want to measure what is the test current, correct? Now, what is the input impedance? So let us calculate it here. So what is VGS here? Let us write down those relations. So VGS can be written as what? VGS is nothing but, this is your VGS, which is nothing but minus VT. Now, what is your VBS? Your bulk is also grounded, right? So VBS is also minus VT, correct? So what is your V out here?
Sir, won't we take RS here?
We are not taking RS here because what we are trying to see here is that, see, V in plus RS is basically your source. Okay. This entire source, what is the input impedance that it is seeing? You understood? Okay.
Okay, sir.
So here V out can be written as what? So can be written as minus GMVGS plus GMVVBS plus let's call this node as Vs. Okay, so we can say V out minus Vs divided by R naught. This whole thing multiplied by RD. This is your output expression, correct? Because the current through R naught is nothing but V out minus Vs by R naught. Now substitute these two expressions here. What you would end up is basically, or rather Vs is nothing but Vt. So what will you end up with? So I am not doing the entire simplification in the interest of time, but I think you can definitely do that and see. So Vt by It, I'll just write the final expression. It's very simple to just put those things together. So basically you'll have Rd plus R naught divided by 1 by Gm plus Gmb times R naught. Okay. So basically if you put minus Vt here, all the minus sign kind of goes off. So V out, so basically, yeah, sorry, why did I write the V out expression? I'm sorry. Basically, we are interested in only the It expression, right? So It is basically given as minus of GMVGS, GMBVBS plus what happens is, or rather
ITRD.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that. Or in other words, Vt can be written as, It times Rd plus R naught times It minus GMVGS minus GMBVBS. Basically, what you are saying is that there is a Vt can be written as this voltage plus this voltage, and the voltage across R naught is nothing but the current which is flowing, which is It minus GMVGS and GMBVBS. That current flowing through R naught will give you this thing. So now if you simplify, so here again what happens is all this is Vt. So all the Vt terms get collected together. You will basically simplify and you will get something like this. Okay. Now, if you look at this expression, there are few things to be noted. Okay, so this is how you calculate. You just substitute this and this one, you'll directly get the final expression. Now, the first thing to note is that Rd, okay, impacts Rin. Or in other words, your output impedance or what you put at the output, the resistance that you put at the output is going to impact your input impedance. And that impact is happening because of low R naught. Okay. Now, if you take R naught to be kind of infinity here, what will happen is automatically, if as you put the limit R naught tending to infinity, it will automatically come down to what? For large R naught, Vt by It, which is your input impedance, becomes equal to 1 by Gm plus Gmb. This is what you would get, because as R naught becomes quite large, you divide the numerator and denominator by R naught, you basically get something like this. Now, because your R naught is not very high in low technology nodes, lower nanometer technology nodes, you do not have your input does not come to this one. Now, as we have seen in the RFIC class, for some of the BTech students who took it, but for others also, don't worry about this. Basically, what happens is, if you look at any wireless receiver or even wireline receiver, sometimes when you talk about RF circuits, you want to make sure that your input is matched to 50 ohm, right? So, for example, if you take a mobile receiver, you have your antenna and it goes to your LNA. Right? Now, the input impedance of your LNA has to be equal to 50 ohm, because your antenna is a 50 ohm antenna, and typically all RF systems are working on 50 ohms, except some of the old television systems which work on 75 ohms, right? So if you look at this value, GM plus GMB, if you look at this value of Rin, you will see that this value of Rin can be designed to be equal to 50 ohm. For example, so for 50 ohm Rin equal to 50 ohms, all you need to do is to put GM plus GMB equal to 20 millisiemens. So this is a value that can be achieved. Okay. In fact, this common gate LNA is one of the candidate architectures that people use for RF circuits or for LNA design in for RF circuits. Okay. The MTech students, of course, you will be taking up that course next semester as an elective. We will go in detail about those things there. Some of you have already taken it in the BTech. So, but this is one of the major advantages or the selling points for this amplifier. Like when you want to do input matching, this can also be for wireline systems. That is when you have systems like, you know, for example, a DRAM to your processor interface or some kind of optical interfaces. So any kind of this thing, right? So wherever you want, wherever, you know, you have transmission lines coming into the picture, you have RF signals in the picture, right? So where you want to kind of provide some amplification and an input impedance, which is quite low, something like 50 ohm, 75 ohm. This is one of the good architectures to use. Okay. So if your R0 is larger, you get 1 by GM plus GMB. Okay. All right. Now we have looked at the input impedance, we have looked at the output impedance, we have looked at the gain. Now what about the bandwidth? All right. Now let us look at the bandwidth aspect.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, in the RFIC course, what we were doing was we just made GM plus GMB equal to 1 by 50 ohm kind of thing. But while simulations, we were working with 65 nanometers, so
right.
The R out means R0 was quite low.
Yeah.
So then was that relation still valid there, or?
Yeah. So what you would, that is what we would have done in the RFIC close. What you would do is, because your input impedance is going to be this particular expression, where RD also comes into the picture, R0 comes into the picture, and so this becomes larger than 1 by GM by GMB. Okay. So what we did is basically we put a cascode transistor, if you remember. Right. This was connected to VDD, and you had your inductor. This was connected to some bias voltage. You had your current source and you had your input like this. Correct? Now this cascode, what it does is that the impedance here, so this will also have some RD, right? Like the inductor will have some loss, which is modeled as some parallel shunt resistance. Now, when you put this M2, it is like almost, it is, you can think of it as something that enhances your R0. Okay. So, and it shields the output impedance to your input impedance, which is why this expression became valid. You understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the cascode transistor came as a kind of a buffer. In one way, you can think of it as something which increased the effective R0 of your M1, right? That we know why it does, right? So that is one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is to say that your M2 kind of shielded your, RD from the input impedance. So nevertheless, whichever way you look at it, you can mathematically also prove by drawing the small signal equivalent circuit and then deriving the input impedance. You will see that it can be very well approximated to 1 by GM plus GMB. Okay. Yeah, but you're right that if you don't have this M2, then you end up with this top expression, which is what, if you read that my RF microelectronics Razavi book, they would have explained these things.
Okay, sir.
All right. So now let's talk about bandwidth. Okay. So this is, let's say, VB. Now, first of all, where all do we have capacitances? We have a capacitance here, and let's say this is also driving some next stage capacitance. So you have some load capacitance. In addition, you also have CDB, plus CGD if you do Miller approximation. Now this you have CGS plus, anyway, here you're not, let's not look at Miller approximation. Let's just say, okay, you have CGS here, CGD anyway is a little smaller value. Now, what all said and done, what you have is, you basically have two poles here, right? Now, pole 1 is associated with the input. So let's say FP1 is basically going to be, let's say, the input related pole, and FP2, let's say, is going to be the output related pole. Okay. Now, what is going to be the expression for the input related pole? You're basically going to have 1 divided by 2 pi. Let's say there is an effective Cin which is there. So Cin times Rs parallel to the input impedance. So this is going to be your input pole. What is your output pole? It's going to be 1 by 2 pi, the output impedance multiplied by, let's say, CL plus CDB and other things. Okay. This is how your bandwidth is basically going to look like. Now, if you look at, yeah.
So RS series with RN or parallel?
Okay, so what we are assuming here is that although there are all these other capacitances, effectively there is a capacitance here. From this particular node to ground. Okay, so how will you calculate the time constant or the pole frequency? What is the impedance seen by the capacitor? Correct.
Okay.
So seen by the capacitor, if you look up, you have 1 by Rn. If you look down, you have Rs. Okay. That's the so Cin will, because anyway VB is an AC ground, so it will have CGS. It will also have, so basically this will be comprised of CGS plus CSB. Right? These are the two components in Cin. Okay. Now, if you look at the values, okay, definitely R out is much greater than Rs parallel to Rn. So this will be your dominant pole. Okay. Cin is also kind of, Cin is CGS plus CSB. Mostly the CL will be little higher, and therefore, FP2 will be the dominant pole. Okay. Now, we only need to look at noise. Maybe because that's a little longer thing, I will take it up in tomorrow's class. Yeah. Yeah,
But
someone
want to have CGD, sir, in the scene?
Yeah, you'll have CGD here, basically.
So that Miller thing approximation.
Yeah, Miller approximation you can use.
So Cin will also contain this CGD.
See, yeah, so typically what we do is, so what happens is, yes, you can write the expression, which is why we just say, okay, Cin is given by this thing. But the point is that here, Miller approximation, how can you give? Because the input, the gate is actually grounded, right? Gate is actually, you cannot put, so basically, AC wise, this is grounded, right? So, which means that Miller approximation, my Miller approximation will not come because there is no notion of gain between the gate and the drain. In other words, what will happen is you will have the CGD added here because it is between this node and ground.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Because you're giving your input at the source, you're not giving the input at the gate. So this CGD is not literally seeing some kind of a gain. In other words, it's actually seeing the gate is grounded AC wise. So the output pole will kind of, so here you can kind of add CGD and so on. Now, typically in practice, what happens is it is difficult to kind of estimate these things very accurately. We kind of depend on simulation to help us get the values correctly. Okay. All right. Okay, so with this, I'll wind up the class today. We only need to look at the noise analysis, which we will do in tomorrow's class.
Sir?
Yeah.
So I have a small doubt. Like in the common source topology,
Yeah.
what we can say is at the ground there would be small noise, right, sir? And at the
Come
source,
again. In
in the
common.
common source topology,
Okay.
where we ground the source, there is a possibility that ground will be having a noise. Like it won't be perfectly at zero. It can have some voltage level, right, sir?
In practice, that is the case, which
Yes,
is
sir.
called as ground bounce. Yeah.
So it can work same as this circuit, right, sir? Like this one, common.
Yes, that's a very
Common
good.
base.
That's
Yes,
actually
sir.
a very good observation. Yes, it does act like that. You can. So, if you have some signal bouncing around in the ground, it will do. But the other aspect is, in that way, yeah, the transistor is in saturation. But then, yes, that does happen. So, which is why you try to make sure that your ground bounce is as less as possible.
But on the other side, like sir, they still have a very high amplification.
You will have, yes. So which is why what people will do is that you try to put decoupling capacitors. Okay. So let's say you have the circuit. This is VDD and this is ground. You put, this is what is called a supply decoupling capacitors. Now you would see this even on PCB designs. You would see this, of course, on PCB designs. It's not only just supply decoupling. It also helps in RFI EMI filtering. But on chip, you do this to make sure that so when you put like this can basically be a MOSFET. So you can have some good density. So what will happen is you try to kind of short the AC signals which are on VDD and ground. Yeah, you try to do that. Nevertheless, you will end up with little bit of this. Yeah, but it will not be so much. It will be there, but it's not. I mean, you try to make sure that it is as minimal as possible.
So I have one more doubt. Like in the RFIC course, we didn't focus much on the bulk GM. Why are we
There
doing
we
that
just
exactly
mostly, there you mostly try to tie it to the ground, right?
Yes, but the source still had some variation in that course, right, sir?
No, what you're saying is that you're tying the bulb to the source. That's what you're
yes,
doing.
yes.
Otherwise, it's given to ground. That's the thing.
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay, any other doubts or questions?
Sir, for this output, sorry, for the ground noise cancellation, can't we use something like a differential op-amp sort of thing, which can cancel noise?
We will do that. Like I'll try to complete. We'll go into differential circuits by. If I'm taking tomorrow afternoon class, by Friday we will start off with differential amplifiers. So that is one of the major advantages in differential circuits. Like you have so many advantages in differential circuits. We'll go into it. All op amps are differential, at least at the input.
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay. So thanks everyone. Have a nice day. So we will meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. and also at 3 p.m. Okay. So those of you who joined a little late, yeah. 3 or 3:30. When do you want it? 3 o'clock is fine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
So
can
3
it be,
o'clock.
so can it be done in the evening time, like around 5 or 6?
5 or 6 is difficult because typically that's when I travel back from the institute. I was told that 3 p.m. is a free slot for all of you guys, so that's why.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it will be fine.
Okay. Okay, thanks everyone. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thanks, sir.